Good morning, financial algebra. We're going to cover 9.7, the profit equation. And I have that equation written here. So P represents profit, R is our revenue, and E is our expenses. And then I've also drawn the graphs here. So the linear equation should always represent our expenses, and the parabola or curved upside down U is our revenue. And so the difference between one function and the other would represent your profit. So when revenue is above my expense, that would represent my profit. And we are looking for the distance that is the longest or greatest, which would give us the greatest profit. So number one, they'd like us to identify our maximum profit and the profit price. So we're looking, when we look at these graphs, know that the bottom is our price and the side is our profit. So for this first graph, remember I'm looking for the largest, the longest line, and I would say that that is this one here. And so I'm looking at the point here and the price here. So I am then going to estimate, so if this is at 30, this right here, so a price of $35 and profit, well, let's see, if I look to the left, so if this is 100, I know right halfway would be 125K. So I'm going to estimate that at 135, maybe 138. Remember, again, we are estimating, so about halfway between 125 and 150. So I'm going to say 138, but I have to subtract my expenses. And so let's say I'm estimating that this is 25,000. So I'm going to say this is 30. So minus 30. So I'm going to say a profit of 108,000. So that is simply how you would do that. So I'll do it one more and then I think we can move on. So the greatest profit here, I would look at where this peak is, right, the tallest point here. And I would estimate that, then I'm going to line this up, working all the way down so I can identify my price. So remember, the bottom is our price. So I would estimate, let's see here, if this is 30, about $35. And our profit is the revenue, so that is almost 350. So let's say 349 minus our expenses. I'm going to say 40. And so 349 minus 40 would give me a profit of 309,000. And so that's how you would do that. So let's move on. I'm going to determine our profit equation from the following. So remember, profit equals revenue minus expense. So this is our profit equation. So for number 2, my profit equals my revenue minus my expenses, and we're going to substitute my revenue. So for revenue, I have negative 32,000 P squared plus 106,000 P. Then I'm going to subtract, and now I'm plugging in, and if it helps, so I'm plugging this in. And then now I'm plugging in my expense equation here, which is negative 14,000 P plus 80,000. Now, I'm going to subtract. So when I subtract, it's going to change a negative 14,000 to 14,000 P and a negative 80,000. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So there are no other P squared, so I'm just going to write negative 32,000 P squared. But I can combine 106P plus 14,000 P. And that would give me 120,000 P minus 80,000. So that would be the answer to number 2. All right, let's try number 3. So again, profit equals revenue minus expense. So our profit equals our revenue minus our expense. So I'm going to do revenue, which is here, and then expense will be written here. So profit is revenue, so negative 900 P squared plus 20,000 P, minus my expenses, so negative 2,100 P plus 100,000. I'm going to distribute, right, this minus makes this negative a positive 2,100 P, and it makes this 100,000 a negative 100,000, right, because I have to distribute that negative to both. Now I'm going to combine like terms, so profit equals negative 900 P squared. I'm going to combine the P's, so 20,000 plus 2,100 is 22,100 P, and then I just have a minus 100,000. All right, number 5, determine the maximum profit and the price that would yield the maximum profit for each. So to do these, they're talking about our maximum point. And so here is, they're talking about this point here called our maximum. And we're looking to find our maximum, we have to find our vertex, which is x equals negative b divided by 2a. And then we need the y value. So when we find this point, x comma y, x will represent our price, y will represent our profit. Okay, so let's do part A. So I have p equals negative 500 lowercase p, that can be confusing, plus 60, well, you know what, there's no point in me rewriting this equation. I want to save space. So this part here, negative 500, that's A, 67,600, that's B, and this right here is C. So lowercase p, I'm replacing it with x. If it makes you feel better, I'll put lowercase p. So I'm going to do lowercase p and capital P. P is for price, little p is for price, big P is for profit. So I have a negative b, so negative times a positive 67 is 67,600, divided by 2 times a. I'm going to enter that in my calculator, and I get a price of $67.60. So that is the price. In order to find the profit, I have to plug it back into my equation. So profit equals negative 500 times 67.60 squared plus 67,600 times 67.6 minus 20,000. So I'm going to enter that in my calculator just the way it appears. Negative 500 times 67.6 squared plus 67,600 times 67.6 minus 20,000. And so my max profit is 2,264,880. And so this is my maximum profit. All right, let's now move on. So it's less confusing. So part B. So let's identify this is A, this is B, and this is C. And so P, lowercase p, equals negative B divided by 2 times A. All right, so then I get, if I enter this, I get $11.89 to be the price. Okay, so that is the price that would produce my maximum profit. And to find that, I have to plug it back into the capital P equation. So negative 370 times 1189 squared plus 8,800 times 1189 minus 25,000. So I'm going to enter that. Negative 370 parentheses 1189 squared plus 8,800 times 1189 minus 25,000. And I get $27,324.32. And so that is how you do these. I'm not going to do a third. I think you can do that on your own because it's just the same process over and over. So number 6. Listen Up sells external computer speakers. Here are their following functions. They have an expense function. Here is their revenue. Okay, determine the profit function. Remember, profit equals revenue minus expenses. So profit will equal, I'm going to plug in the orange minus the yellow. Orange minus the yellow. So negative 38p squared plus 8,000p minus negative 828p plus 400,000. All right, so I'm going to distribute this negative, and so that makes a positive 828p and a negative 400,000. So my profit equation is going to be negative 38p squared. 8,000p plus 828p is 8,828p minus 400,000. Determine the price to the nearest cent, which yields the maximum profit. And so for part B, I'm going to do it here. Remember, lowercase p equals negative b divided by 2a. So I'm going to identify. I've got, here's my B, and here's my A, and here's C. So I have negative 8,828 divided by 2 times negative 38, which gives me a price of $116.16. And let me confirm that. Negative 8,828 divided by 2 times negative 38. Yes, $116.16. So that is part B, $116.16. Part C is to determine the maximum profit. So this is exactly like number 5. I'm just going to now plug it in to my profit equation. So negative 38 times my price plus 8,828 times my price minus 400,000. So negative 38 parentheses 116.16 squared plus 8,828 times 116.16 minus 400,000. So my profit equals, let's see here, that's $112,720.94. Okay. I would do the exact same thing for number 7. But I don't think we need the repetition, but we can do it anyways. So profit equals your revenue minus our expenses, which makes this a positive and it makes this a negative. And now that I've changed their signs, I'm adding them. So my profit equation is negative 300p squared plus 29,000 plus 300 is 29,300 p minus 150,000. Determine the price to the nearest cent, which yields the maximum profit. So again, P equals a negative B divided by 2 times A. And that gives me, $48.83. So $48.83. C, so here's part B, here's part C. I now have to plug that price into our profit equation. So negative 300 times 48.83 squared plus 29,300 times $48.83 minus 150,000. And I get a profit of $565,408.33. So moving on, number 8, determine the expense equation given we have profit and revenue. So I know what profit is, it's here, so I'm plugging that into here. And I know what my revenue is, I'm going to plug that into here. And we're going to solve for E. So our profit is negative 468p squared. A lot of algebra today. 45,599p minus 299,000 equals, now I'm going to substitute what R is. So negative 468p squared plus 45,000p. And I don't know what E is. So I'm going to solve this by getting everything on the same side. So I'm going to add the 468p squared. And I'm going to subtract the 45,000p. And I'm going to write what's remaining. So these are gone. And I'm left with 599p minus 299,000 equals a negative E. Now I have to divide by that negative. So E equals a negative 599p. A negative divided by a negative is a positive 299,000. So there is my expense equation. A lot of algebra. Number 9 is very similar, but the only difference is now I'm finding revenue. So again, profit equals revenue minus expense. They've given me my profit, and they've given me my expense. So I'm going to plug in what they have. So profit is negative 525p squared plus 65,326p minus 185,000 equals, I don't know what R is, minus, and I'm going to plug in my E, negative 326p plus 185,000. So the first thing I'm going to do, right, is distribute this negative. So it makes this positive and this negative. So I have now a positive 326 and a negative 185. And then I'm going to do just what I did in the last one. So I'm going to subtract 326p. and I'm going to add 185,000. And so these are gone. And so I'm going to write what's remaining. Negative 525p squared. If I subtract the 2 in the middle, I get 65,000p. Whoops, I'm missing a 0. These cancel, and I have equals r. Last problem. So this wants us to determine the values where the profit is equal to 0. And so to do that, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. And so will you. And so I'm going to identify, here's A, B, and C. So profit, when it equals 0, is a negative B plus or minus the square root of 30,000 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. So I end up with negative 30,000 plus or minus, and we're going to simplify what's inside the square root. So square root of 30,000 squared minus 4 times negative 150 times negative 2,343,750. And I did something wrong. Minus 4 times negative 1 times negative. Let me try that again. 30,000 squared minus 4 times negative 150 times negative 2,343,750. Then I have to take the square root. Why is it telling me domain error? Maybe because the number is too big? I don't know what's going on. Oh, because you get a negative number. Sorry. I ended up with hold on. Let me do this in parts. 30,000 squared gives me 9. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 4 times 150 times negative 2,343,750. Minus 1,406,250,123. Sorry, I'm having to do this in steps. All over negative 300. So now I'm going to simplify. 9, I have 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, minus 1,406, 250, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I get all over negative 300. So what you do, because this is, you can't see, a negative number, and there I should have taken negative 150 out, my bad, plus or minus I, then I can take the square root of 5,250,000, 1, 2, 3. And so I'm going to, I get plus or minus 22,500 I over 300. Now I'm going to reduce by 300. So negative 30,000 divided by 300 is negative 100. 22,500 divided by 300 is 75i. And so that is my final equation. And you can't see that. Sorry about that. And so that is what I would write for my solutions. Thank you.